Okay, in this video, I'm going to touch upon the treatment by the police force at various times in my life. And it's not good. I'm actually going to go back to a time when I was just 14 years old. I'd already gone through significant trauma by that time. Autistic, with emotional unstable personality disorder, and was in a private therapeutic children's home in Surrey because I'd been hurt. The police force, for some reason in Surrey, I used to make a bit of a joke out of it because I used to constantly kind of get targeted by somebody in the police force in Reigate Banstead Police Force called PC House. And my name is Beth, which means house. So I swear house is out for house. So I used to make a bit of a joke about it being a teenager. Now, one of the things is that private therapeutic children's home, although I didn't get therapy there yet at that point, I didn't really have proper therapy in my life, really. But the thing is, they were decorated more like houses rather than institutions. It felt more homely, pictures, soft furnishings. You could go into the kitchens, you could make your own food, have a cup of tea whenever you wanted. It wasn't like institutional children's homes, like Lambeth Children's Home, the kitchens were locked. Anywho, so being a traumatised teenager, just because I grew up in Brixton and went to Stocker Park School doesn't necessarily make me some sort of thug. But for some reason, the police seem to think that, everybody must be a thug that was in that place. I had a complete meltdown, and of course that's going to happen. I had gone through serious trauma. So I had a meltdown and I broke a kettle. And I walked out and I stomped off down a road in Redhill called London Road. And it was like something out of a bloody movie. Like, did the police have anything better to do? One car drove towards me, another car driving from behind, and it kind of swerved like in a movie. So one car kind of swerves the road that way, and the other one that's coming this way kind of swerves. They swerve the cars around me, like speeding and kind of almost skidding, like crikey. And they grabbed me up and throw me against the car quite violently. Then they took me to the police station. Kind of blank out after that. So before I kind of end up going kind of into, let me just move quickly on, because there's actually quite a few things in my life with regards to police force. But I'm actually going to just focus on one incident now, because what I've just talked about has just made me feel it's a little triggering. So I'm going to limit this video now to one particular incident with regards to the police force that happened in 2020. Other incidents that happened around the police force, I will talk in a bit more detail another time. It's also quite late as well. So in 2020, I was trying to report Loughborough Estate Management Board to the Financial Conduct Authority for fraud, to the police for other crimes, and was also trying to get independent fire safety and structural safety inspections done on internal areas in people's flats and internal utilities pipe areas in the blocks, because I saw there was areas of concern. I know enough about health and safety, and I knew that there was actually quite some serious significant risk in areas. So I actually, there's also the fact that I had tried to get someone to come and fix a leak that was happening in my flat, and they didn't come, and from there I found out it was because of this plumbing situation. Eventually, once I did get a plumber, and then it was like the stopcock wasn't working in the flat. It took a long time. Anyway, I'm trying to focus on the police force. I won't go on a tangent. Anyway, this stuff's happening, and when this plumbing issue happens, a panel is opened up in the side of the building, in which I see just high risk in several areas that are quite life-threatening. And I thought that was of concern. Also, during that time, I was then told by Lambeth Council that Lambeth Council had no ownership of the flats, that Loughborough Estate Management Board owned the flats. So I immediately, upon hearing that, at the end of that very phone call, looked into Companies House, because I had been mistreated on that estate for a year prior. And lots of bad things happened because, by the way, the police force didn't arrest somebody that hurt me, and they were able to cause me more pain and suffering, and the police force also believed crap about me. But moving on, like I said, I'm going to focus with 2020 rather than 2019. So, basically, I look up Companies House at the moment that I find out from Lambeth Council, and Lambeth Council says we don't own the properties. Loughborough Estate Management Board do. And I was like, I thought they were Lambeth Council. And I was told, no, they are not Lambeth Council. This was intriguing to me because my tenancy agreement for the flat said Lambeth Council. And if I could be bothered to get the paperwork out, I can show you that it just says Lambeth Council. It doesn't say anything else on the actual tenancy at all. And I'll come back to that in a brief moment. So I looked up Companies House. And Companies House, once I put the name in there, they obviously didn't find any results. However, that's because they weren't registered with Companies House. They were registered with the Financial Conduct Authority, and Companies House had a link to it. So I went on to that and actually started having a look through some of the paperwork, and immediately I came across fraudulent activity. Just broke their own laws, even of discrimination and various other things, of which I've pointed out. I would not have even gone in on them like that had I not been so badly harmed in 2019 and them completely dismiss it. You know, and this complete and utter dismissal time and time again because people have listened to lies about me has seriously destroyed my life. Might be wise you find out facts about me first. By speaking to me, not other people. Anyway, so I've had a quick look through their paperwork, and straight away I've got alarm bells ringing. Now, with respect to the safety situation, the alarm bells are ringing. So I'm like starting to, because I'm a geek, so I start getting legislations out, I start getting this out, that out. And I'm finding that there's a loophole here, and I'm like, oh gosh. So actually, to get safety inspections done, it's got to go back to the mutual society that's running the housing complex or estate. So trying to get the fire brigade, because I did try to get the fire brigade to do some inspections, because I was thinking about other people's safety and well-being. I got together a petition and spoke to other residents on the estate. I walked around, even knocked on people's doors. You know, people were showing me the different problems that they had, you know, with repairs, with conditions, health concerns, safety concerns, fire safety concerns. And so I spoke to all sorts of people and took notes as well. I was absolutely astounded to find out that in the white blocks on Loughborough Estate, the fire exits are locked. They shouldn't be locked with a key lock. They should have one of those push-down bars where if someone does exit it, an alarm goes off. So then you know if someone's just, not using it correctly. Yeah? Also, I'd spoken to someone in one of the other blocks who brought it up with me that the electric gates on the upper floors, well, from the first floor up to top floor, to stop people going floor to floor, actually there's an electrical fault and they're locked shut. So that's actually a serious concern. If there's a fire on upper floors, they can't get out of the fire escape stairwell. And there's a high chance that the electric gates can lock shut. You know, the electrics can cut short and they lock shut. And people could end up trapped. Now, the fire brigade seemed to be quite dismissive of the concerns I had. I had already tried to go to the local fire brigade, and by the time I did actually get people to come to the estate from the Jason Jones fire commissioner and his safety team came down, one of the team with him actually recorded some of the evidence I had in the window and one of the areas of concern. But however, Loughborough Estate Management Board wouldn't. I've gone on a tangent and I've just realised I have. Forgive me. I don't need to go on that tangent. Let's go back to the police force. Too much background, too much stuff. Focus. Anyway, so I'm doing all of that stuff and I'm trying to report them because they were involved in crime as well. Some serious discrimination against people. You know, and they had done, they're targeted and stuff like that. I've been targeted since. Anyway, police force. So on about 7 different occasions, I tried to report the housing to the police force. I went so many times. I had like a ginormous folder with all the evidence put in nice, neat, easy order for them to be able to understand. Hardly anything had happened then. What's happened since? Oh my gosh. Anyway, instead of police doing anything, they're just antagonising me. They're not taking any reports. Triggering me. And ignoring me. And so are other people when I'm telling them that these people are actually seriously dangerous. Anyway, they caused me to have quite a weird breakdown. When I say weird breakdown, I'm usually pretty bloody loud when I have a breakdown. Or extremely tearful. If I go quiet, it's because I force myself to go to sleep. Because I can't handle being awake with those thoughts of the traumas in my mind. What happened to me on Loughborough Estate was very strange. It was like, fully aware of what was happening. I was having a proper mental breakdown. I couldn't stop myself from doing what I was doing. But I was so calm. I wasn't. I felt enraged, but at the same time I was very, very calm. There was even a guy standing next to me as I'm smashing something. He's like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, "I'm tired." So I'm doing an action of just smashing things and looking kind of like in a daze. The damage I caused, the materials cost less than £500 and I could have repaired it myself to professional builder standard repair level, so that's not an issue. I didn't get the chance to do it. I didn't have the money to do it either because I would have fixed it straight away because, you know, that's what you do. And I know how to do it properly and I'm genuinely serious about that. Anyway, what happened was because it was strange, certainly not my normal character for having a breakdown, that's for sure. It was like it was strange. One of the thought processes that come to mind is, did something trigger me? There was something kind of like suggestive. You know, I was in sort of all sorts of mental states at the time, but it was strange. You know, I wasn't screaming and shouting. I was really calm and quiet. And people were able to stand next to me while I was having that breakdown and not be harmed. They didn't feel threatened. Like I said, one guy said to me, "Are you okay?" And I just looked at him as I'm smashing this thing. And I just said, "I'm tired." The neighbour who claimed to feel so threatened, Mr. Godwin, walked past me smiling as I was smashing things. In the day, and it happened during the day, there were people that were witnesses all over the place. He wasn't threatened. He walked past me. If you felt threatened, I'm there with a bloody hammer smashing the outside of a fucking building. If you feel threatened, why are you going to walk right past me? It's not my normal behaviour. Because I'm smashing the outside of a freaking building. But I'm as calm can freaking be. As calm and as quiet, so calm and quiet that someone could stand right next to me doing that, asking if I'm okay. And I just say, I look at them and go, I'm tired, while I'm still smashing. And then Mr. Godwin's walking past me, behind me, smiling. No, he did not feel threatened. The breakdown was an intense breakdown. It lasted all day, kind of in and out of this weird mental kind of scenario, like nothing kind of like any breakdowns I've ever had before. Anyway, it got to a point in the night time that I was scared. And I didn't think to call for an ambulance. I wasn't thinking. I was having a freaking breakdown. The weirdest breakdown I've ever had in my life. So strange. And I was terrified. I ended up calling the police. I called the police. I called them and I told them I smashed things up. It wasn't actually criminal damage because I wasn't intentionally doing it for a criminal reason. I was having a freaking strange, bizarre, very intense mental freaking breakdown. When the police arrived at my flat, they could see that I was having a freaking breakdown. What they should have done at that moment was call an ambulance. In 2020, August. That's when the ambulance should have been called. That's when I should have been perhaps taken to hospital for some help. Not in 2021. Different story, another video. Evidence to go with that too. So, 2020. So I'm now, so I'm having this major breakdown, and they didn't call an ambulance. They took me into the police cell. At first, it seemed okay, as in people seem to be working as they're meant to. It's not great. It's never going to be great. You're locked in a police cell. Had something to eat and then I fell asleep. I woke up the next day and it was very, very different. Police force being ignorant. Oh, I forgot to mention they put me in a cell with no water to wash my hands. There's more to that, but I don't want to talk about that. So the next day, as I said, all of a sudden, the police have been ignorant. Now, I asked for a solicitor by that point, and even if you're locked in a cell, if you contact the police on the buzzer and you say that you want a solicitor, they have to provide you with one at that moment, because you're allowed to at any time change your mind if you want to see a duty solicitor. And I had changed my mind and decided I wanted to see a duty solicitor. I was having a fucking breakdown. I shouldn't have been in a police cell. Anyway, needless to say, absolutely no duty solicitor was called for me. Not just that, I was refused water on more than one occasion. Here's the clincher. I wasn't the only one that was refused water. There was someone else who was also locked in a different cell. I have no reason why. They were also screaming for water to drink. I still in the throes of a major breakdown, and now going on to the afternoon. I mean, I got arrested, I think it was about 11 at night time. So it's now the next day afternoon. I'm still in the throes of breakdown. I've ended up having a complete meltdown. I threw my food across the cell. Cell door was opened. There was a guy there and proceeded to take me to an outside area to try to calm me down. But still locked up inside, and I was still claustrophobic. It was hot as well. And forgive me one moment. And I will come back to the... So basically, I'm being walked around by this guy, and immediately I notice he's different. First and foremost, the clothes he's wearing are not standard British police force clothing. Yes, there's a black jumper, yes, there's black trousers, but not standard police force. And the shoes he was wearing, boots, way too good, again, to be standard police force. He was wearing a mask, everybody was wearing a mask, it was COVID. But his mask as well, even the mask, everybody else was kind of wearing masks that they obviously got out of a box when they came into the police station. And he was wearing one of the hardcore, proper masks. I'll show you what sort of mask he was wearing. Bear with me a moment. A mask more like this. By the way, that's my cleaning mask, because I get affected by my cleaning products. Okay. I'm autistic, so the way I talk about things is strange. If you be patient with me. So anyway, I notice he's all different. And his stance and his body language and his movement's different. And he calmed me down. He was very good at that. He managed to calm me right down. I was in meltdown mode. A more normal meltdown mode than the strange behaviour the day before. And so he managed to calm me down. He started chatting to me about normal things. He looked at me and looked me directly in the eye. And he said, "You are good." He also said to me a few other things, which actually, sadly, because I was in such a state of trauma, it kind of went in one ear and out the other. But the basic be-all and end-all was he was trying to give me tips to not be triggered. So I'll repeat that again. This guy, he looked at me and he said, "You are good." He managed to calm me down, first of all. When I was calm enough to listen, he looked at me in the eyes. He said, "You are good." And then he proceeded to give me tips on how to deal with being triggered. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to grasp those. I was really traumatized. And after I'd calmed a bit and we kind of walked around this small square area with some bars, I found out, because obviously it was very obvious from straight away he wasn't English. He was American. And I asked him about whether he worked for the police force, and he said, "No, I'm here to kind of learn." So it's something like that. I can't get it verbatim because I was so stressed. But he was kind of like overseas to learn, to study, that sort of situation, how English policing is or whatnot. He said he was from Atlanta. And then after calming me down, and it's kind of time that I had to go back into the cell, he said to me, let's go back, let's go and get the cell cleaned up. So the both of us were in the cell cleaning. And that was when I realised this guy's been in the military. This guy's been in the military. This is no police officer. This is someone who's been in the military. And it also dawned on me that this person knows exactly what the heck's happening to me as well. Anyway, I was put back in a cell. Now, after what had happened, what the procedure is that, again, at no time was any doctors called about mental health or anything like that. Okay? At no time was I, looked out for, in the normal sense of, protecting someone who's vulnerable and having a breakdown. I shouldn't have been in a police cell. If somebody has a breakdown in a police cell, the normal procedure is that you have a police officer who will sit in front of the door with the door open to keep an eye on the person who's vulnerable. Obviously, bearing in mind, as long as that person's not going to be violent. That's a general rule. Anyway, Brixton Police Force obviously didn't do that. And after this American guy had managed to calm me down and make me feel safe, he had told me I am good. He had told me how to stop being triggered. But I didn't take it in. Then we cleaned the cell together, and I was like, straight away I could gauge there was military training or he'd been in the military. And that made me feel a bit safer. But then he had to go, and the door shut by another officer. Again, no water. I had another meltdown. Much more serious. Now this time, the police force decided to open the door, and instead of dealing with me the way they should have dealt with me, they jumped on me. I had a proper meltdown, and I was actually trying to harm myself. But that jumping on somebody like that is not the way you deal with it. 4 male police officers pinned me down to the floor. Jumped on me, pinning me down to the floor. I saw the guy from Atlanta. He really couldn't intervene, being that he wasn't Brixton Police Force, and he had to stand there and watch. And I'm just looking at him and kind of pleading with my eyes to help me. Help me. Please help me. Even after that, the cell door was shut again. I think I was in there for over 24 hours. There's a lot more to all of this, but I'm going to leave it there. I will continue about other mistreatment by the police force over the last few years. And I may talk about things prior, but definitely the last few years. But for now and for tonight, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take a breather. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. I'm going to ground myself, calm myself down, because it's late and it's almost time for me to say goodnight. So I'm going to say goodnight here, and I'm going to wind myself down and have a brilliant evening. Night. Wake up and have a brilliant morning and day tomorrow.